But we'll get started, and then people and the ladies can catch up as we're going, because if not, we might be here for a little while just waiting for everyone to join. So welcome and good afternoon if you are here joining us so far, and thank you so much for being here also. So this is our Women in Tech Forum. I started this back in the end of 2019, and it was supposed to be a solely in-person event, but COVID has actually made us move online, which has actually been really, really nice, because I've been able to connect with a lot more people, but also connect a lot more women to each other as well. So it's been really, really useful and really, really great to see so many different ladies, but also hopefully add some value and get you to meet each other. And it's a very supportive group where we're helping each other along our journeys. So a little bit about Crimson. We're founded back in 2001, so 20 years now. We've got revenues of 21 million. We've got an IT recruitment, but also a solutions arm, so we're a Microsoft Gold partner, and we recruit from everything from graduate to CIO level, but our sweet spot is around BAs up to kind of CIO, IT director, those types of levels. We also run a lot of workshops and also thought leadership forums, so we like to add value and give back to our community. It's hugely important for us that we can connect you guys, but also add value and make sure that if there's anything you want to learn, that we'll run those events for you. And hopefully we'll be going back to running some in-person events where we can see your faces or have a drink with you, or food, whatever suits you best. Usually drink and food for me. I'm not sure about you anyway. So a little bit about our Women in Tech events. As I said, we started them back at the end of 2019. Started out as wine tasting events with speakers, as you can see from that bottom picture. Hopefully we'll get back to some stuff like that if you're all into that sort of thing. I was going to be doing cocktail making, so maybe that can come in the future as well. I try and get insightful speakers, so I always ask ladies that are in the group, but also ones in my own network and in other networks, who is open to speaking, but also who can add some value to you guys. Or ladies, shall I say, as well. I always say guys, so I'm not saying that you're guys. Open discussion, so no judgment here. So don't feel like you can't ask a question or you can't give your honest views, because it's very open and we just want to support and see each other win. It's not about judging here at all, and that's what I wanted to create. Share your ideas and approaches. So if something that you've done that works, please let us know, because we all want to learn from each other and all value each person's idea and opinion. Find solutions. So if you've got a problem, let us know in the chat, let us know by talking, write us an email, we'll help you as much as possible. And also, most importantly, have fun and meet others. So obviously our jobs can be stressful, they can be hard work. I wanted to create a forum where we can enjoy ourselves, connect with others, but also be able to have long-lasting networks and relationships moving forwards, which helps a lot as well. So what I'd like you to do, if you are open to it and open to connecting with others, please write in the chat window, the comments, who you are, so who you are and what you do, but also a link to your LinkedIn URL, so that we can all connect with you after this session, which would be really, really useful. And I'll put mine in once I've finished talking. So yeah, please do write in the chat who you are and what you do. That'd be really, really useful. A little bit about me. So I started out at Harvey Nash, who are now our parent company, back 10 years ago. So I started out as a CIO researcher. Essentially, my role was to research for CIOs. So any candidate, any CIO roles that we were delivering, I would go on job boards, go on LinkedIn and really find the best CIOs, do headhunting, and then give it to my consultant. Since then, I then moved on to doing recruitment myself, and becoming a lead consultant in the CIO space, and then creating the CIO candidate workshop for Crimson, and also our Women in Tech Forum and a few other forums along the way. So it's been quite a nice journey so far, and I'm really enjoying it. My interest outside of that is travel, dogs, as I mentioned. I got a dog at the start of the first lockdown, so hopefully he'll be quiet throughout this. Fitness and wellness, so I've done quite a few Tough Mudders, some with Crimson. Lou who's on the camera, she's done one or two with me. Entrepreneurship, anything around mindset. I'm always on YouTube watching those types of things, which again might be fun for some of you, but maybe not some others as well. So I'm really excited about today's session. It's one that I'm personally super interested, but also that we've had a lot of feedback on wanting to learn more about. So we're going to be talking around growth mindset, but also goal setting, and I managed to get two amazing speakers for you. So the first speaker is Halstead. So she is a change management practitioner, change leader with over 15 years experience in the tech sector. Kat also works for Crimson, and she established our amazing academy, which is going really, really well. I'm sure she can touch on that at some point as well, or let you know a little bit more around that. but now she's moved to heading up the change and people development for Crimson. So she's doing amazingly well, doing some amazing things with our academy and further around data and those types of things. So her topic today is developing a growth mindset. We all know how important the mind is and how it's so important to get your mind right, because the rest of your life will follow with career, but also personally as well. So we've talked about learning what triggers your fixed mindset and find out practical steps you can take to start moving into the growth mindset. So learning where you are right now, let's say if you've got a fixed mindset, you might not know you have, or you might not have one, which is great, but talk about what that looks like, but then also talk around growth mindset and some steps you can take to actually get there. And we've also got Hazel Olivier. So she is part of our Women in Tech community. She's been to quite a few of our events, and Hazel is also amazing and a great woman with what she's doing. So she's got 30 years experience working in technology. She's now also a Chief Technology Officer. So she's got hugely loads of experience and also has worked her way up, which is really, really valuable. So if you're in this group, maybe you're trying to work your way up, again, Hazel's someone you should be reaching out to, and hopefully Hazel can help you with pointing you in the right direction if you've got any questions. So Hazel's going to be talking all around goal setting. So goal setting for success. It's really important to have goals, but maybe not everyone knows how to set them properly, but also be tracking them as well. So Hazel's going to talk through her own goals that she's had with her career, but also let you explore some of your goals that you've had too. So we'll be exploring why and how goal setting is important and how to actually do that, and tips and hints that you can take following on from the session. And just before I hand over to Kat, what I'd just like to say, if you've got any questions, if you've got any comments, please be active in the chat. It's really an interactive forum, so do chat away in the chat. Would be really, really great. Or raise your hand if you'd like to comment or say something, and then I'll just make sure I'm managing the chat window and we'll get back to your questions. So again, comment away if you've got any questions, or raise your hand. Great, well, thank you, and over to you, Kat.
Okay, I'm just going to put it on full presentation mode. I'm just checking, can you see my slide?
Yes, I can see your slide.
Fantastic. Okay, thanks, Keisha. And like you, I have a dog. He's got a very deep bark. Hopefully he's far enough that if he does set off this afternoon, you won't hear him, but apologies in advance if you do. So good afternoon, ladies. I was very tempted to say good morning there. I'm used to these sessions being in the morning. Today, as Keisha said, what I want to do is introduce you to the two mindsets and help you to identify if a fixed mindset is sabotaging your success. If you've already attended one of these sessions and you already understand growth mindset, hopefully this will be just a good refresher for you. And also perhaps help you to consider how you might help others, maybe in your teams, or if you're a parent, how you might help your children to develop a growth mindset. So we're going to look at how adopting a growth mindset can positively impact the way you think and the choices that you make in your life. I want to help you identify triggers that you've got, maybe around fixed mindset, and also learn how you can become more growth oriented in the future by taking you through 3 simple steps. Now they're simple, but obviously it takes a bit of a time to embed them in, but hopefully I'll give you those steps for going forward. Important caveat here, no one has a growth mindset in everything all the time. Okay, it's more of a spectrum, so everyone is a mixture of fixed and growth mindsets, and we'll explore that a bit. You could have a predominant growth mindset in one area, but there can still be things that can trigger you into a fixed mindset. So that's just something to be aware of. As I talk about either a fixed or a growth mindset in this session, I'll be talking about it as an absolute, but just keep in mind you can switch between the two depending on the circumstances. Okay, so thinking about your ability, Holly's going to put a poll out, and I want you to think about, do you think that you can improve your ability to do something? So maybe it's a yes, absolutely, maybe it's a no, maybe it's a maybe, it depends. If you've done an ABA, it's always about it depends. So I'm just checking, Holly, is the poll going out? Because I can't see.
The poll is live in the chat. Excuse me.
Fabulous.
Vote, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, and Keisha's going to tell me what the scoring's like. So how many yeses, how many nos, how many maybes do you believe that you can improve your ability to do something? And don't worry about what just now, but do you believe that you can actually improve your ability to do something?
Can everyone see the poll in the chat window? It should be coming through now.
Okay. Yeah, it's just coming.
Cool.
Fantastic.
I think I could see either, so I was like, I can't tell you the results. I can't see them. I was panicking then.
Well, to be fair, I didn't give anyone any direction. So yeah, as you're thinking about that, do you think ability is something that can be improved with limitless time and resources? Is it a yes for you? Is it a no? Is it a maybe? It depends.
So we've got 88% saying yes and 11% saying maybe, it depends. Nobody saying no.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's absolutely awesome. So, I mean, if you haven't answered yet, keep answering, and Keisha, let me know if that changes at all. So, thinking about then athletic ability, is that something that you think you can improve? And you don't have to answer in the poll, but I'm just asking you to reflect on that, because sometimes this will really trigger either a growth or a fixed mindset. So, your athletic ability, do you think you can improve it? And then what about your singing ability? This question usually prompts a quick and firm response from some people, whereas absolutely not, I can't improve my singing ability, even with infinite time and resources. And then finally, what about your intelligence? Do you think you can improve your intelligence? Do you think you can develop your intelligence? Any changes, Keisha, in the poll since we've been going through those?
So not much change. 85% yes, 15% maybe, it depends, and still no for no 0 for no. Now it's just changed to 19% yes.
That is absolutely fantastic, because what it tells me is all of you are open to grow and develop, and that shows an overriding growth mindset, which is fantastic. I mean, the idea of that session is particularly around thinking about, you know, your athletic ability, your singing ability. It shows that mindset is a spectrum, and you may adopt a fixed or a growth mindset depending on the circumstances and the triggers, and we'll talk about the triggers a bit later. But looking at the two mindset, a fixed mindset is based on a belief that intelligence is static and it cannot be developed. So if there were any people, and I don't think they were on this poll, I think you said there were some maybes, but there were no no's. So
just
if anyone
one no now, just one
no, so one potential no. If you're in that fixed mindset, it's based on the belief that intelligence is static and cannot be developed. So you either are or you are not smart. Every situation is evaluated. Will I succeed or will I fail? Will I look smart or will I look dumb? Will I be accepted or will I be rejected? Will I be a winner or a loser? So everything is about that sort of either winning or losing. By contrast, growth mindset is based on the belief that a person's true potential is unknown and unknowable, that it's impossible to foresee what can be accomplished with years of passion, toil, and training. So it's a real belief in growth and potential. And it's a really, really important point that we're going to come back to again and again, and how that really, whether you're adopting a fixed or a growth mindset, how that triggers certain decisions and your approach to challenges that you face in your life. So I just want you to take a moment of reflection now. Is there something in the past which measured you? Now, it might be a test score, it could be being rejected for something, a position, a role, perhaps a key decision that you took, an evaluation or a criticism. So what I want you to do is focus on that moment and feel all the emotions that go into it. So in a fixed mindset, one moment, one task, one test, one evaluation can measure you for what seems like forever. You might feel like a failure. You might feel like a loser. You might feel worthless and dumb. And you might feel like everybody else is better than you. Now, I like to give an example now because I think it really brings it home. So a few years ago, I applied to do an executive MBA at Cranfield. I didn't go to university when I was younger, so I always felt, you know, that I'd sort of missed out somewhat, and I wasn't as smart as other people. Recognise that word there, smart, linking to fixed mindset. So I was very lucky. I had a really strong sponsor, and he encouraged me to do this MBA. So I applied to Cranfield. And because I hadn't got a GMAT score, I had to do an entrance exam. And I did a little bit of prep, but to be fair, not an awful lot. And reflecting back, it's probably because I was in that fixed mindset of I didn't go to university, I'm not smart enough to go to university. So already I'm putting in those sort of barriers in place. Long story short, I took the test, I failed the test, and it was absolutely crushing. Now, this test was really difficult. You know, you're talking about a postgrad degree, so they're not going to make it easy to enter. And it was things like algebra, fractions, quadratic equations. You know, remember all those back when you were 15? And I hadn't done them since I was 15. So it's no wonder really that I failed. But what that failure did, it made me it put me back to that fixed mindset of, well, I failed because, you know, it's what I thought. I'm not smart enough to go to university. Fortunately, at the time, I had a very strong mentor who was very matter of fact, and he said to me, well, you just revise for it and you retake it. And I was very lucky. I sat next to someone who was an absolute whiz at maths. He reminded me of all the formulas. I retook the exam and I passed and I got in, and kind of the rest is history. But I have to say, for the first, well, probably for the next year, even at university, I measured myself as the student that failed the entry exam. And actually on conversations, lots of people had failed. But if you think now, reflecting on that moment, and I put myself in the growth mindset, I look honestly at my role in it and understand it doesn't define my intelligence or my personality. And the question I had to ask is, do I let that experience define me, or do I control it? And I can choose. So reflecting back on that situation for myself, I didn't revise adequately for the test. I'd forgotten all about the formulas with quadratic equations. There's no wonder that I failed. So it was a case of, I failed does not mean I am a failure. Instead, it's about asking, what did I learn from that experience, and how can I use it as a basis for growth, and carrying that with me instead. So an example of how I do that is sharing my experience with you and showing how in my situation that fixed mindset really played quite strongly for the next sort of 12 months. So before we move on to the next piece, where I'll delve a bit more into the fixed and growth mindsets, I'm just wondering if anyone wants to share their thoughts around this topic. Has anyone got a moment that they feel really measured them in the past?
Who's brave enough to come off live and share with us? We won't judge around here.
Not at all, and I won't linger, because it's a big thing to share on one of these webinars, particularly in Teams. We'd probably be more likely to do it face to face, so I'll just move on. But if anyone does want to share, I think it's
Lou's off camera, so
it was just a quick one, just to resonate with what you've just said there. I was such an A-star student at school. I loved school. I was sort of head of, you know, the house captain and the deputy head girl and all this. I loved school. I thought it was great. And I had such a conscientious mind. And yet I really messed up my A-levels. And the exams I just found horrendous. I was going through a bit of a weird time, I think, anyway, but I'd had such an A grade sort of expectation throughout school, and always managed to do particularly well in coursework. But when it came to the revision for exams, it just sort of didn't really sit with me for some reason. Anyway, A levels weren't what I thought. Everybody was more disappointed than I was, I think, at the time. And I just felt this overwhelming sense of failure. And I think it's always, I've even dreamed about it. It's like, as an adult, it's really weird. Like throughout my life, I've woken up to dreams, like thinking back to that feeling of failure from when I didn't achieve what was expected of myself and by everybody else, it seemed, or my tutors. And it's really stuck with me. And I think, to your point there, I have a really big philosophy is, you know, you don't get something for nothing, right? You don't get something for nothing. And I think for me, it was an element of feeling a little bit of an imposter. And I know we've talked about imposter syndrome and stuff in the past, whereby you've got such a high expectation. And I actually think my whole career, I've pushed myself and challenged myself and put myself out of my comfort zone. And I know we've talked about this ourselves in the past. And I think it really did stem from that A level, really, in the sense of, I'm not necessarily the brightest, I'm not necessarily the most academic, but how you apply yourself and how you learn to play to your strengths, but also understand those other behaviours that kind of complement those strengths in a weird way. I've really found a real comfort with that over the last few years, and it took me a long time because I very much did have that word failure associated with things. So I think I kind of went to the extreme and kind of stretched myself so much through my 20s and 30s because I just couldn't even bear to think about not succeeding in what I wanted to do, and it has driven me in the right direction positively. But looking back now as a more mature adult, and obviously having children, as you mentioned, with 2 children who are very influential and seeking, advice from me on a daily basis, that ability to stretch yourself, to challenge yourself, but it's okay to fail. It's okay to not get it right all the time. That's been the biggest message for me. So I just wanted to resonate that point, really.
Thanks, Lou. I really appreciate that. And it's reminded me that when you're sort of studying for exams, research has shown that students in a fixed mindset will hold back because, if they give 100% to the studies and preparation, then if they fail, which they know they're going to in their minds, if they fail and they've given 100%, they've got no excuses. Whereas if they
you kid yourself a little bit, don't you? You sort of kid yourself that you're doing what you need to do, whereas deep down you're not, and actually you don't know how to get out of it, and you're becoming a little bit of a muddle with yourself. And that's just my
absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt there, but
yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Thanks for sharing, Lou. Thank you. So I said we're going to delve a bit more into the different mindsets. So looking first at the fixed mindset. So fixed mindset is the belief that intelligence is static and can't be changed. So you either are or you're not smart. But what that does, it leads to a desire to look smart. So there's a focus on performance, on outcomes, and not looking bad. But because you don't believe that you can develop, effort then is seen as unnecessary. And useless. And then if you think about challenges, well, they threaten your ability to look smart. So what happens is you see them as a threat and you'll easily back down. Mistakes, well, they expose your weaknesses and they absolutely undermine your ability to look smart. So you're going to be discouraged by mistakes rather than being encouraged by them. And you're going to do absolutely everything you can to avoid them or find excuses for them. If you go back to the student studying for an exam, well, I know I didn't put 100% effort in and that's why I failed. So it's a really good excuse for sort of failing. And then criticism. Oh, criticism can be absolutely crushing. It's taken very personally if you're in the fixed mindset. You'll be very defensive because you'll see it as a personal attack. You'll find it unhelpful and sometimes actually quite hurtful. But as a result of this, so people with a fixed mindset, they plateau early in their careers, they fail to achieve their full potential because they're constantly holding themselves back, but then that confirms their deterministic view of the world. They also feel threatened by the success of others because, of course, they're comparing themselves to others all the time. So by contrast, growth mindset, it's a belief that intelligence can be developed. So, of course, this leads to a desire to learn and grow. So there's a huge focus on the process of improvement. They put 100% effort in because they know it will lead to growth, and they embrace challenges for exactly the same reason. Mistakes, well, they're used to help them learn, and they appreciate and use criticism to grow and develop. They reflect, they review, they use it to grow. And they find lessons and inspiration in the success of others. So as a result, people with growth mindset reach ever higher levels of achievement, and all this gives them a greater sense of free will. So the question is, why waste time proving over and over how great you are when you could be improving? Why hide deficiencies in the fixed mindset instead of overcoming them? Why look for friends and partners who'll just shore up your self-esteem instead of ones who will also challenge you to grow? Seek out experiences that will stretch you. That's the clear message. So reflecting on, some personal challenges, I want you to think about moments when you've felt discouraged in the past. Did you have a negative voice telling you to give up at any point? Because that's the fixed mindset in play. And if so, what then helps you to persevere? What strategies for you do you find most and least helpful? And it's really important you think this through, because one strategy for someone that's helpful might not actually be helpful for somebody else. So it's something to reflect on yourself. Are there others who are helping and supporting you? What do they do? And how does it help you when you're facing challenges? And a really great question to ask yourself is your success helping others in any way? And how is it helping? And if not, is there anything you can do to support others in what you've learned and how you've grown? So if we move now to thinking about how to change your mindset, changing mindset means changing and challenging your perspectives. And our thoughts, opinions, values, and beliefs are often so deeply ingrained that it's difficult to even, or even uncomfortable to start that process. So I'm sure you've heard this before and seen this image of the iceberg. It's a very commonplace metaphor to discuss our thoughts, behaviours, and their impact. So when you think about the iceberg, you've got the tip that's visible. It's the 10% floating above the surface, and in this case, this is where we're representing, visible results. So this might be successful results, or there might be failures. In the instance of success, it might be posh cars, handbags, designer shoes, exotic holidays. No, wait, hold the holidays right now. No holidays right now. But you might have landed the job of your dreams, or you might have flunked an exam. So that's the sort of 10% that sits above the surface. And then below the surface, you've got the remaining sort of 90% of the iceberg. And this represents everything that the world doesn't see. So here we have everything that goes into that outcome of success. You've got hard work, you've got positive self-talk, and so forth. Or we might have deeply set beliefs that unconsciously shape our behaviours. So facing challenges, you can either think, well, what's the point of trying anymore? I can't do any better. Or you can think about hard work, repeated effort, and telling yourself, yeah, I've got it in me. Let's try again, but work smarter when you're facing a challenge. By confronting these hidden beliefs with questions, we stand a much better chance of developing a growth mindset. And what I'm going to do next is take you through 3 steps that should help you move from a fixed to a growth mindset. Now, it's kind of the way CBT works. So remember that you're retraining the way you think. So this is absolutely not an overnight fix, but a gradual one that will eventually become more automatic, and awareness is absolute key. So step 1, learn to identify your fixed mindset inner dialogue. So every time you hear a thought that says, oh, I can't do this, it's just too difficult, it's just too hard, I'm stuck, I'm going to fail, I'm going to look dumb, I'm going to avoid this. Anything that sounds like that, that is your fixed mindset in play. Okay, so the first step is just being aware of it and calling it out and recognizing the thoughts that are going on behind the decisions and the actions that you take. The second step is to recognize that mindset is a choice. You can choose how you respond to criticism, to failure, to challenges. You can choose how you respond to that. A mistake doesn't make you a failure. I failed doesn't mean I'm a failure. And the one that I love, and the one that really flips you from a fixed to a growth mindset, is 3 simple words. You add the yet on the end and you say, I can't yet, because it opens you up to a whole world of opportunities and potentials. You're saying and recognizing you can't do something, but there's potential. And that's a really, really important point. And then step 3 is just to practice a growth mindset approach. And how do you do that? Well, you focus on effort and perseverance. So if you remember back to fixed versus growth, growth is about recognizing opportunities to grow and develop, but you have to put the effort in. So if you focus on effort and perseverance, it reminds you that that's the journey that you need to go on to get to whatever outcome it is you're looking to achieve. And think about, what are the opportunities today for learning and growth for me and for those around me, because that focuses you on that development piece rather than just the outcome. This is about growth and a journey. So 3 steps, practice them, and you can move more to a growth mindset. And I have to say that I've seen this in action. I've seen, for me, it was an aha moment. For some, it's not such a light bulb moment. Again, it affects people in different ways. But if you're always looking out for that sort of fixed mindset, the narrative in play, it's like everything. Awareness is key first, then you can move to change it. And something to be aware of is confirmation and selection bias. So the Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters, he talks about this a lot, recognizing that, you know, if you're feeling, for example, in a sort of a fixed mindset, you've got quite poor self-image, you know, you're trying to look smart, you're all about the image, you'll be selecting certain data that confirm what you're thinking about yourself and what you're thinking about the world. So the world will feel hostile, and you'll see people as unfriendly, and you'll feel defensive, and you'll have quite an unhappy personality. Moving more to sort of the growth mindset is opening yourself up and being aware when you're looking for evidence that you are very open to all evidence and not just evidence that might support a poor self-image. Really, really important. So see the world as welcoming, have a good self-image, and see people as being friendly and supportive. So if you want to explore more, I'll just remind you at the end of that book. It's a great book that talks more about how to manage the sort of chimp in you and change the way you think and behave about things. So thinking now about, you know, some of the most common things we tell ourselves, let's look at some questions we might hear going on, that sort of negative narrative, and then look at some questions we can ask in their place to reframe our mindsets, really. So, you know, what if you're thinking, I tried, I failed, it's just beyond me? Well, could you try a different strategy or approach? What's the process you're using to get to where you're trying to get to? It's obviously not working, so let's reframe that. I didn't achieve what I set out to do, I failed. Well, isn't learning a process, and isn't failure just part of that process? What did you learn so you can improve next time? Focus on that element. I just wasn't born clever. So by now you should recognize that's absolutely the fixed mindset, and challenge yourself. Haven't others tried and succeeded through hard work? I can't do it. I'll never be able to do it. Well, are you giving up on yourself too soon? Isn't it a matter of time? Have you put in the effort you need to in order to succeed? Again, think about the process, thinking about the system you're using, and think about how you can change it to get the result that you want. I'm stuck. Oh, well, don't give up. You know, who can you ask for help? And actually, remember, when you ask others for help, you're not only going to help yourself, but you're giving them the opportunity to show and share their knowledge, which makes them feel good. I don't know how or if I'll ever get there. So think about the plan you can make to get there. Hazel's going to help you in the next session to talk about things like goals and outcomes. How can you motivate yourself to follow that plan? What's my first step? Something I found really interesting is that in a fixed mindset, stereotypes represent a shrinking sense of belonging. Negative stereotypes say you and your group are permanently inferior. But interestingly, only people with a fixed mindset resonate to this message. When you're given a positive label, you're afraid of losing it. When you're given a negative label, you're afraid of deserving it. A stereotype of low ability is able to invade a fixed mindset and take away confidence and comfort. And there's some interesting research here around the strength of pervading stereotypes. So one example is that just putting more males in the room with a female before a maths test will lower the woman's score, and it will lower it quite a lot. Many women have a challenge not only with stereotypes, but with other people's opinions of them in general, and they trust them too much. And again, research shows that boys receive 8 times more criticism than girls when they're growing up for their conduct, and they're scolded and punished for pushing the boundaries. But if you think about very stereotypical childhoods for boys, they have a lot of rough and tumble. They're constantly calling each other names such as slob, moron, idiot, loser. But what it means is that those evaluations lose a lot of their power. So they don't trust other people's opinions of them so much. By contrast, again, very stereotypically, girls were seen by society as well behaved, cute, pretty, helpful, and they delighted in telling everyone that they're cute. It's nice to be told, oh, isn't she lovely? Isn't she pretty? Isn't she, delightful? They learn to trust other people's estimates of them. Everyone is nice to me. If they criticize me, it must be true. When people are in a growth mindset, the stereotype doesn't disrupt their performance. Growth mindset allows you to see prejudice for what it is, someone else's view of you, and then to confront it with confidence and abilities intact. They don't believe in permanent inferiority. And you know what, if they are behind in, a piece of work or, coursework, well, people with a growth mindset, they'll just work harder and they'll seek help to catch up. They'll look at their process and their approach to it, and they'll define a better way of doing it. And it's certainly true, maths and science needs to be made much more hospitable places for women, and women need all the growth mindset they can to get their rightful place in these fields. It's getting better, but we've still got a lot of work to do. Now, for parents on the call, I think I'm sure, schools are showing that, they recognise the importance of growth mindset. I see, paperwork coming back from my children's school all around this. But I thought it would be useful to focus a little bit on growth mindset in children, because, again, there's lots of research around this. So a question, and I've done this, do you label your children? Do you label them smart, clever, clumsy maybe, arty, creative, adventurous? Research shows that labels actually lower a child's IQ for those with a fixed mindset. So telling kids they are smart makes them feel dumber and act dumber, but claim they are smarter. In a fixed mindset, a child will lose confidence when they make mistakes. For teenagers, well, it's one big test. Am I smart? Am I dumb? Am I good looking or am I ugly? Am I cool or am I nerd? Their main goal is to do things as easily as possible so they don't have to work hard. And my 16-year-old is an absolute example of that, sleeps all day. In a fixed mindset, their focus is on mobilizing their resources, not for learning, but to protect their egos. By contrast, in a growth mindset, it doesn't make sense to stop learning. For those children, adolescence is a time of opportunity to learn new subjects, a time to find out what they like and what they want to become in the future. And they focus on developing and learning and understand that defects are things you can work on. So what can parents do? Well, find a growth mindset way to praise them. And I have to work on this continually at home. So focus on the effort. What did they learn rather than just the outcome? Talk about mistakes and how they can learn from them rather than focusing on the punishment. So I've just got a couple of examples here. So let's say a student puts in no effort but still aces their exams. What's the growth mindset approach? Well, chastise their lack of effort. Students working really hard but failing test papers, praise the effort. You can see they're working really hard. Provide encouragement around that to continue. Maybe challenge them to try a different approach. If they're still failing, however they're approaching it, maybe they need to reframe it. And what about the student that works really hard and aces exams? Well, it's fantastic. Praise the effort, not the result. So what? Where have we got to? Well, the key point for me that I'd like you to take away from this is to recognize the fixed mindset, recognize your triggers, and at the very least, if you hear yourself saying, I can't, just add a yet on the end of it. A growth mindset is not a declaration. It's a journey, and one that involves small progressive shifts in thinking rather than huge leaps. And remember, most people aren't fixed or growth, but somewhere in between. Now, if you find this information that I've shared today really useful, there's 2 books that I'd encourage you to read. Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. I am so passionate about this book, so passionate, in fact, that it's now sent out to all of our apprentices before they join our organisation, just to get them into the right mindset. The Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters is a fantastic book as well, all around the mind. And he also does one for children, which is called My Hidden Chimp, which is fantastic to help children understand how to manage their emotions and the way they think. If you're interested to see the impact of a fixed mindset on an organisation, because yes, an organisation can have either a fixed or a growth mindset. Ultimately, Enron's fixed mindset culture led to its collapse. It went bankrupt and was also the subject of fraud investigation. There's a documentary called Enron, The Smartest Guys in the Room. It details the company's story. Plus, the same story is detailed in the book called Conspiracy of Fools. So I'd encourage you to watch that movie or read the book. And that's it from me, really. So, Keisha, unless we've got any questions in the chat, I'll hand over to Hazel.
That was great. Thank you so much, Kat. There is a question, so we'll ask it. No, that was really, really helpful. So, Teresa, I'm not sure if you wanted to expand on this, but you put any thoughts on how you might coach someone with a fixed mindset? Are you able to give a little bit more around that? Are you experiencing someone who's got that right now that you're trying to navigate getting them through it?
Yeah, I think, as I in my intro, I said that we were trying to embark on this transformation, and part of it is about embracing a fixed mindset, and it's how to coach people to be more open to that fixed mindset and almost the benefits it can give. And then on a one-to-one, somebody who's really I'm always right kind of scenario, not being open-minded to input and thoughts, just some thoughts around that, really. I mean, there is one in particular that I can think of, but I won't share it in this forum. But yeah.
I think that the starting point is always to try and understand, to help them to understand the difference between a fixed and a growth mindset. So even just taking them through a couple of questions around, do you believe you can improve your ability? I think is a really clear way to show where someone's mindset is, and then giving them the contrast to that. But if you're thinking about a particular task, it is around focusing them on the effort rather than the outcomes. We're all a product of our experiences, our childhood, and how the experiences that we've had, and perhaps those individuals, they've only ever been encouraged to focus on the results, in which case they're going to be all about what's visual, what the outcomes are, rather than the journey that's got them to there. So it's around, I guess, helping them to see that the effort that they put in and the journey that they go on is actually arguably the important bit. I don't know if that helps, and I'm happy to have an offline conversation. I know I'm cautious around time, but if you want to just reach out to me, Teresa.
Thanks. The positioning's good. Thank you. But I might take your comment off as well.
We've got one more question and then we'll move over to Hazel. We'll still have enough time, so we've got just a couple more minutes for a question. So it's from Lou, question for Kat. I've previously had fixed mindset colleagues in my team and struggle how to best balance time to coach versus them self-learning impact on the team. Sometimes causes a negative effect on them. So are you?
It's a similar question.
Reading it out.
Colleague. I think, Kat, you've obviously been close to myself and my team in the past, and we're in a really good place. But it was just an observation, really, how much time you need to spend coaching and working with colleagues versus them doing self-learning and that thing. And you sort of have to live there anyway. And I think my focus definitely over the last couple of years has been around celebrating that effort. Because actually, and the contribution of a team, we work in a sales environment, so results are very, very apparent all the time. And I've had people in the past who only measure themselves and compare themselves to their colleagues and can get quite jealous about colleagues doing well. We've overcome a lot of that, but I think it was the same question, really. Just what balance of time and how much time can you invest without possibly isolating others, if that makes sense as well, because it can be really.
I mean, the first thing I'd say is I'd absolutely endorse coaching, and coaching from outside of your team as well. So it's someone that's really independent. It's a no hidden agenda headspace for them to talk about their challenges, their hopes, their dreams. But also a coach is someone that's always got your back. They give you that 100% time. I have an executive coach. I know, Lou, you do too. And, you know, I sometimes go on the course thinking, what am I going to talk about? And then I just talk for an hour, but it's someone that is completely independent and gets you, and you can, you know, you've got that confidence there. So coaching definitely is the first thing. I think, you know, if you've got a team, I can't stress enough the importance of recognizing different personality types in your teams, and for the individuals to recognize that as well, so they, you know, they recognize the strength that everyone brings, and then they also see the diversity, that there isn't just a, you know, a perfect person, you know, that we're all a combination of the best teams are a combination of strengths. And we each bring something to the fore, and that avoids then this fixed mindset about, well, you have to be this particular person to be successful.
No, agreed. And that's where obviously the objectives, development objectives and others can then be different for everyone, but that's where you can measure that effort, can't you, in terms of the objectives being reached. Thanks, Kat.
Pleasure.
That's great, Hap. And I think what you were saying there, Kat, like make sure you realise everyone's different and they've got different skills. And I know for me with Crimson, because I'm not the same as everyone in a lot of ways, but some ways I'm my own little person. But being able to bring that out of me is what's been able to make me kind of add ideas and things like that. So I think that's hugely important. There's a couple other questions, Kat, in the chat. Would you mind just going back to them after? Because I think there's a couple more. They're all coming through now. And Elizabeth as well, we can answer them in the chat. And then we'll move over to Hazel. Thank you so much, Kat. That's been amazing.
Pleasure. And
again, Kat will be in the comments, hopefully getting back to some of you, and ask away your questions. So what we're going to do is hand over to Hazel now. We'll be talking around goal setting, so how to set goals for success. So you've got your mindset sorted, hopefully, or you'll be on the way to, and now it's about looking at your goals and how you can actually reach your goals as well. So over to you, Hazel. Are you okay with your screen sharing?
Yep, I'm making it then going. Thanks very much, Kaisha. And Kat, that was a fantastic presentation. I think most of us actually do suffer with that sort of growth mindset, and we have people in our teams that suffer with it. But you'll see there should be a lot of synergy between growth mindset and goal setting. So moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset will really help you to achieve with your goals as well, whether that's work or personal goals. So thank you very much to Crimson for this opportunity to present to you. I'm really happy to be here and to meet you all. I have joined in, as Kaisa said, to a number of these sessions already, but more as a spectator. So this is my first time presenting in the group, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I hope you find what I have to say quite informative. So we all have goals in our work life or even in our personal life. And my takeaways for you from this presentation, I'm hoping to help you understand what goals actually are, why they're so important, because a lot of people don't understand the importance of goals in your life, what the blockers are to being successful in reaching your goals, a couple of basic rules and key frameworks, and then also the difference between OKRs, KPIs, and goals. Because I've come across in my career a lot of companies that I have joined where you say to people, oh, let's set goals, and they say, oh, I can't work with goals, I've got to have OKRs, or I need KPIs. And there's a lot of confusion about what all of these are, and understanding that will help ease a lot of that confusion. So quick introduction to me. So I've been in IT over 30 years. I'm currently a CTO at a fintech company in London. My career has progressed predominantly through the technical arena. So I've gone through from data capture to junior programmer, right the way up through to solutions director, CTO, and shareholder as well. My experience spans a bit international, so both in South Africa, as you can hear, I'm very British. I spent a lot of time in South Africa, but I've also spent quite a number of years in the UK and also India. I've had teams in India, and I've had to travel through between UK and India on a regular basis as well. And the difference in cultures between all these different countries has really been eye-opening and helped a lot with me when setting goals with my team members as well. So I've worked across multiple industries, so I'm not just focused on one industry, and being in a tech arena, that's really nice because tech is tech, so it doesn't really matter. You can span across industries quite easy. And I've worked for some large companies as well as small companies. At the moment, I'm with a startup, but I have worked for the likes of Nestle and Investec, Standard Chartered as well. And I strongly believe that a company's key assets are their staff. So one of my reasons going into management way back when was that management seemed to have a bit of a gap when it came to the technical arena, and I didn't feel that the staff was getting the recognition or the notice or the guidance that's needed to be able to be effective. And that's one of my key things is staff are my assets, and I need to make sure that they are as effective as possible to the benefit of the company. And that's one of the reasons why I chose to do this presentation on goal setting as well, because I believe it's really important and key to help with your staff and your teams and yourself as well. So kicking off, what are goals? So if you look at the definition in Wikipedia, a goal is an idea of the future or desired result that a person or a group of people envision, plan, and commit to achieve. Putting that a little bit more in English that we can understand a bit better, it's the process of identifying something that you want to accomplish and establishing a measure to show that you've actually accomplished it and putting a time frame in place. So those are three key elements of goal setting that you need to be aware of. Another wording about it could be that they're the level of competence that we wish to achieve, and it creates a useful lens through which we can validate our current performance. So if you think about it in your life, do you ever feel like you're sleepwalking through life with no real idea of what you actually want? Perhaps you know exactly what you want to achieve, but you've got no idea how to get there. Well, that's where goal setting comes into it. Goals are your first step towards planning for your future, and they play a fundamental role in the development of skills in various facets of both your personal as well as your working relationships. They have a target with which we aim, a proverbial arrow, as people would say. So understanding the importance of goals and the techniques involved in setting these paves the way for success. Where others, when you want to learn to set goals in one area of your life, it actually helps and becomes easier in other areas of your life. So if you can master it in your work life, you'll find that it will automatically spill over into your personal life, or vice versa as well. So there was a lot of research done over the last couple of decades around goal setting and how to set goals and tasks to reach your goals. And the key people that have done most of the work around this and produced most of the papers and documentations and discussions around this are two doctors called Latham and Locke. They've written lots of books, and they conducted a lot of studies on the impact and the importance of goals as well. And they say every person's life depends on the process of choosing goals to pursue. If you remain passive, you're not going to thrive as a human being. So in other words, as human beings, we all like to achieve something, to strive towards something. Otherwise, we have no benefits to our life. We can't see the possibilities. And I think a lot of people with mental stress struggle with that. They haven't really set goals. They haven't got a vision of what they want to do within their life. And then it makes them, as I say, passive, and it does cause a lot more mental stress. So goal setting can help you in every area of your life, as I said, from achieving financial freedom to adopting a healthy diet, or even attaining that promotion that you've always been wanting. And in the words of the famous Pablo Picasso, our goals can only be reached through a vehicle of a plan, i.e. your goals, in which we must fervently believe and upon which we must vigorously act. There's no other route to success. So why are goals important? You hear a lot around the office, it's performance reviews and you've got to set goals. And it's like, oh, really? Do we have to? This is such a pain. It's a lot of work. But we need to understand why they're important, because if you understand why they're important, it makes it a lot easier for you to be able to set your goals. So as I said before, effective goal setting is fundamental key to success. And setting goals lets us create our future. It also helps us as individuals to grow and expand, pushing ourselves to transform in ways we usually wouldn't have imagined. And from a human perspective, most people, we need to feel truly fulfilled and to know that we're working towards achieving something. So they help us to stay focused on what really is important. So in other words, take away the wood from the trees. They help us to overcome procrastination. I know I can be sometimes guilty of that when you've got a task that you really don't want to do and you procrastinate for getting to it. Yet once you've achieved it, you feel really good about having it behind your belt. They help you to visualize and achieve your dreams. So not just say, I want to do that one day, but actually help you to achieve them, which gives you that sense of success as well. They measure your progress. very important. If you don't see progress, you're not going to be motivated to continue. And they keep you accountable. So by saying that, if you go to somebody and say, oh, I'm going to lose 5 kilograms, they're going to keep monitoring you, keeps you accountable for that goal and helps you to achieve it. So it's very good to discuss your goals with other people around you. As I said before, it is the keys to success. It is the one and only key to success is setting yourself goals. It's proven to increase employee motivation as well. So although people don't like goals and everybody complains about it, it actually does motivate your teams a lot more when they've got goals that they're achieving. It enhances your self-confidence, coming back to the growth mindset and improving your self-confidence. It does help. But if you've got a goal that you're achieving or you have a number of goals that you achieve, your self-confidence grows along with that. And it does help change your mindset into a more growth-oriented mindset. And it also gives people positivity towards the future. So they can see that they're moving towards something, and it makes them a lot more positive about life as well in general. And it improves, obviously, performance, makes people better at performing. And especially in the work environment, if you think about it, your company has goals and people need to be able to help or know that they've got an input into that company reaching the goals. And if you're setting correct goals, it helps their performance, it helps them to see where they're going, and it gives them guidance and direction as well. So basically, if you don't know what you want to accomplish, how do you plan to get there? So you need to know what goals they are before you can put your plans in place. And again, goals affect the intensity of our actions and our emotions. The more difficult and valued a goal is, the more intense our efforts will be to achieve this. And the more success we'll experience once we have achieved it. And these, again, come out of the learnings of Lackham and Locke with their goal-setting theory. So in basic terms, goal setting shows progress. Progress means happiness. Put it in a nutshell. So if you look at that, what are the blockers? Why is it that we all struggle with setting goals and actually achieving them? How often do you actually achieve the large objectives that are actually important to you? If you're having trouble following through with your goal planning, maybe you'll be just tempted to say, oh, I'll stop, or maybe it's just not it, or maybe I should settle for what I have. But frequently, that's what actually is getting in the way, is the goal itself. But other blockers can be lack of belief, going back to that mindset, that growth mindset, not believing in yourself, or having skepticism for the goal. Setting the wrong goal, very big one. Enjoyment. Are you enjoying the goals? If you're not enjoying a goal, why have you got it? You need to have a sense of enjoyment to be able to achieve it. Previous disappointments, they definitely help a lot towards us not reaching our goals. Comfort zone, also a very big one. Getting out of your comfort zone. A lot of us are too scared to stretch ourselves and get out of our comfort zone. We're happy where I am. Why should I actually put myself through that stress? Well, it does help you to grow. Fear, big one. What happens if I fail? Again, going back to the growth mindset. Laziness, yes, sometimes that does make a factor. You're too lazy to actually do something, or just too much effort and you're really just not bothered. Unclear targets, a very big one, coming back to setting the wrong goals. If your targets are unclear, the goal is most probably wrong. And a big one that's come up in the later years is the now culture. So how many of you have experienced the now culture in your teams? And when I talk about the now culture, I'm talking about they say generation X and Y. They're used to having things right now. They don't want to wait 2, 3, 4, 6 months, a year before they get a promotion. They want it now. They want to know why they're not getting it now. How many of you have actually experienced that? It'd be really nice to hear what you have experienced and how you've overcome that as well. So, Kaisha, if you can look in the chat and see if anybody chuck something there, we can discuss that a bit further.
Please write in the chat, ladies, if you've experienced it, or feel free to come off mute. But I feel like I was just about to say, even in general, I feel like most of us have probably experienced it with even, let's say, deliveries. I know that I'm terrible with, like, I'm not waiting for a delivery for like 2 days. I want it right now. I want it as soon as possible. So I feel like it's almost been instilled in us because of how quick we can get things and how social media has made things so accessible that actually putting in the work, not saying don't put in the work, but just feeling like you can get your delivery like the same night or the next morning. I think things are just moving so much quicker now but you are right with you still need to have goals to get to where you want to get to in the next 3 months, year, 5 years. Has anyone else experienced that instant kind of gratification now culture?
Yep. And it's getting worse because the next generation that they're talking about is called the alpha generation. These are the kids that are being born with mobile devices in their hands from the time that they open their eyes.
Yeah.
But actually they're used to living their lives on technology and clicking and having exactly what they want. But if
I saw Elizabeth just nod then and come on camera.
So if you're looking to achieve something in your life, you need to have something to strive towards. Otherwise, if it comes too quickly, you're not going to have that sense of satisfaction and success either. So that's something that we need to bring across to the now culture, if I can put it like that. And it'd be interesting to see if other people, as I say, have noticed that and what they've actually done to overcome that within their teams, because it is a difficult thing to try and mentor somebody through that and explain to them why they've got to wait for things and why they can't have it now.
So we've had a couple of comments. So Lauren said, same case, I'm very impatient. I find it can also be due to feeling overwhelmed by what I want to achieve. I need to break it down into small chunks. I think that's so huge. Lauren, I don't know if you wanted to expand on that or talk about that, but I totally relate to that and agree with it. I think there's so much pressure, isn't there, to like do so well, but it's like, wow, how do I even break down my roadmap to get from where I am now to where I want to get to?
Absolutely, yeah. I think when you're driven as well and ambitious, you see so many gaps and you think, you know, in your role or in your team, you can go, oh, we could do this and it's exciting. But, and I do it with myself as well. I go, oh, I want to do this over here. And then, oh, there's this new shiny thing over here. And then it all gets too much. So I think breaking it down really helps me, because it can sometimes lead to me then not doing anything about any of them.
Procrastination then, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I agree, and I think most of us come across that, and you'll see in some of the tips that I'm going to give you later on in the slides, it will be all about breaking things down into manageable steps, if I could say that as well.
Thanks, Lauren. Kat's also said, I also think there is sometimes so much noise in our lives that it's difficult to understand what your priorities are, which again is so important, isn't it? Actually being able to prioritize what's most important.
Yep, definitely. And goals need to be prioritized. And especially if you've got multiple conflicting goals, you have to prioritize. Otherwise, you're never going to achieve anything really. So looking at
one of our we had at one of our events before, a lady spoke about work-life integration, and I think how Kat was saying there about having so much noise in our lives, especially as women, having kids, having careers, businesses, whatnot. There's a lot going on, isn't there? So it's prioritizing what's most important. And there's one more comment, then I'll let you continue. I think social media has a huge role in it as well. There's a lot of comparing yourself to others, seeing things and wanting them straight away. Managing expectations and setting time frames is really important for goal setting. That's from Hannah. I know you're on camera. Do you feel comfortable talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, for me, like LinkedIn has so many benefits, but actually seeing what my peers from school and university are doing, I think that kind of comparing yourself to others and going, oh, they've got that, so I should want it too, and actually I need it now, is such a big thing and really gets in the way. I think it contributes to that noise that Kat was talking about. Social media is so much noise in your life.
Yep, I totally agree with you with that. And again, that's one of the other techniques, is making sure that it's relevant. You've got to make sure your goals are relevant. It doesn't help to put a goal in just because the Joneses next door have it. It's not relevant to your life. You shouldn't be looking at it.
And there's that quote, isn't there? Comparison is the thief of joy. So if it's constantly comparing yourself just makes you feel like rubbish. So yeah, I get you on that one. I just try and hide some things that make me feel worse and follow things that make me feel good. But I'll let you continue, Hazel, because I'm bombarding you now with all these comments.
No, it's good. I love the interaction. And I don't want to really just continue now. I want everybody to look at the blockers I put up on the screen, because these are ones that I could think of. Pretty sure you've mostly come across these in your lifetime as well when you're setting goals for yourself, or whether it be personal in your work. But I'd like to know if there are any others that you've come across that I haven't mentioned here, because I think that'll be quite interesting to share that with the group as well. What other types of blockers have stopped you from putting goals in place or actually reaching those goals as well?
We've had a question, which I guess is related to blockers, saying, is it okay to feel lazy sometimes?
Yep, I think it's okay. But again, it goes hand in hand with, is this the right goal? Have you set the right goal? Are you going to enjoy the goal? Because, and are your targets clear? Because if it's none of those, you are going to get lazy and you say, oh, what's the use? The same as well as validating. So if I say to you, I'm going to lose 5 kilos in the next month, and I haven't told you about it, I'm going to be more inclined to be lazy when it gets too difficult and say, oh, nobody knows about it, so I'll, just leave it and it won't affect anybody. But if I've told you about it, I'm going to definitely want to do it, because I know when I see you again, you're going to ask me have I done it, and I'm going to feel guilty because I haven't achieved that goal. So it's all about that validation. Make sure that you're getting it out there and letting people know what your goals are, because otherwise you are going to be intent to be lazy. Personal human nature. We do that. So coming back to the losing weight goal, if I say to you, I'm going to lose weight, okay, how am I going to know that I've actually achieved that goal? Am I going to achieve it when I've lost 5 pounds, 40 pounds, 50 pounds? I need that clear target, and I need that clear time frame as well, because otherwise I'm going to fail. So I need to be able to rather say a goal, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to lose 3 pounds, and I'm going to do it by the end of July. That's being very specific. So if I've done that, then I know what I'm trying to achieve, and I know when I've achieved it as well. If I don't have a thing that I know when I'm going to achieve it and how I'm going to achieve it, I'm going to fail before I even get going. And that also comes back to setting the wrong goals and making sure that you've got a clear target of what it is that you're trying to get at. So moving on. A couple of interesting facts, and I'm just checking this in here to loosen the mood a little bit so that we're all not just concentrating on the negative parts of it. So they say setting goals and reflecting up on them improves academic success. So if you look at that, around 25% of students who enroll in a 4-year university course don't complete their course. And why? Because they haven't actually got clear goals. What the universities have started doing is they started putting in some goal-setting intervention programs to try and help students to achieve their degrees, and they're finding it hugely successful. We think the students coming out of school straight into university, and then they're trying to achieve something. They don't know what they're trying to achieve. They know at the end of it they want a degree, but they haven't actually looked at what does the course encompass, what are all the steps that's needed, how much time they should put in it, looking at their diary, putting that time aside and going through all those motions. It's just too much hard work. Again, coming back, now culture. I'm going to go into university, I'm going to get my degree. I don't want to put in too much effort, but I'm going to get it. And then that's when they fail. It's that mindset, it's understanding what it is that you're trying to achieve and how you're going to get there. Clear targets, basically. The next one I've got here is goals are good for motivation and vice versa. So if you read anything about motivation, you'll see they always talk about goal and goal setting. So to be motivated and keep that motivation, you need to have goals to achieve. Again, human nature, we need to see that success. We need to have those goals that we can achieve, make us feel happy. But it works the same way, the other way around. If you're setting goals and you're not motivated to those goals, you're not going to achieve them. So goals help you to stay motivated. Motivation, if you need to keep it up, you need goals. So they work hand in hand to get that. So looking at goal setting, it's associated with achieving optimal performance. So setting clear goals that are both challenging, yet within your skill set, is a powerful contributor to finding yourself what they call in the zone. So if you find sometimes when you get really going in something with work, you get into what they call the zone. So you're achieving, you're constantly pushing things out, and you feel like you're reaching the top of that mountain that's sitting in front of you. So you need to make sure that you've got clear goals and that they are challenging as well. An optimistic approach to goal setting can aid success. So going back to research, so in research and goal setting among a lot of people, it indicates factors such as hope and optimism. They have a significant impact on how we manage our goals. So if you're feeling negative about a goal, you're not going to achieve it. You need to be optimistic about it. The goals that you put in place, as I say, need to be achievable, realistic, and you need to see that you can get it. Yes, I can do that. That's a good goal, basically. Goals that are both specific and difficult lead to overall improved performance. What do I mean by that? Again, comparisons in studies between the effects of non-specific goals, such as I want to try to do my best, and specific goals like I will, suggest that people don't tend to perform very well when they're saying they're trying to do the best. So look at that wording and how you're doing it. So they've got to be specific and difficult, but you've got to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success. So check your wording, make sure that you've got the right wording in place as well to keep you optimistic in achieving your goals. People with high efficiency are more likely to set challenging goals and commit to them. So yeah, they say, coming back to what Kat was talking about with that growth mindset, people who actually believe in their abilities under pressure or under challenges, they tend to maintain or even increase their goals that they're busy working in. And then they make the improvement and their performance so much better. Conversely, if you've got an individual who lacks this ability or has confidence in themselves, they have a tendency to lower their goals. So make them easier to achieve because it just looks too difficult. And then that decreases their efforts and what they're trying to achieve in the future. So be careful of that one as well. And then goal setting is a more powerful motivator than monetary incentives alone. This one causes a lot of contention. But again, going back to the research performed by Latham and Locke, they found that goal setting to be the major mechanism by which other incentives affect your motivation. So if you've got the goals, you put the incentives in, people will actually achieve them much more simply. So if you look in the workplace, we used to always say money was the mechanism, you'll get a promotion by this date and by this date if you're working hard. But if you actually set goals for the people and say, well, if you achieve X, Y, Z, you'll get your promotion, they are going to achieve X, Y, Z because that is their motivation to get that monetary reward. They are much more motivated when the rewards are contingent to achieving a specific objective rather than just offering them as an annual increase or something like that. So there's a multitude of studies that have shown that setting challenging yet attainable goals increases the prospect of pursuing and fulfilling your ambitions. So setting clear goals, it's more likely to close the gap between what your current ability and what your desired objective actually is. So most of us have a current ability. We'd like to get somewhere. Do we have the skills to get there? Can we increase our ability to get there, basically? So what are the principles of goal setting? So in the 1990s, again, there was a lot of research done around goal setting, and this culminated in a theory of goal setting and task performance, which highlighted 5 key principles for successful goal achievement. What these look like are the following. So it's commitment, clarity, challenge, complexity, and feedback. So I'm not going to read out what's on the screen. Pretty sure you can all read yourself. But if you look at commitment, so your goal performance is strongest when people are committed, and even more so when the goals are actually difficult, because it gives them a sense of achievement if they've had to stretch themselves. I think one of the things that I was taught when I first went into management, one of my first management courses, was we all like elastic bands. So if you take an elastic band and you just hold it in your hand and it's hanging limp, it's not really achieving anything, but stretch that elastic band between 2 points and it's actually achieving a purpose. The same with us in life. We need to be able to achieve a purpose. We need to stretch ourselves, and goals should be stretching. Obviously not overly stretching so that they're totally unachievable, but they need to be stretching and take you out of your comfort zone. If an individual discovers that their performance is below that's what's required, they're likely to increase their effort or change their strategy in order to actually attain it. And when we're less committed to our goals, particularly the more challenging goals, we increase the likelihood of giving up. A number of factors can influence our commitment, namely the perceived desirability of a goal. And so is it something that we really want? And this comes back to that question about relevance. So is it really relevant in my life? If it's not, I'm going to let it drop anyway, and I'm never going to achieve it. Whether you're setting a goal for yourself or for others, in order to be successful, you must possess the desire and a comprehensive understanding of what is required to actually achieve it. So again, having clear steps to achieve your goal. which leads then onto your clarity side. So when a goal is clear in your mind, you have an improved understanding of the task at hand. You know exactly what's required, and the resulting success is a further source of motivation. So because you're achieving it, you're much more motivated. And again, coming back to looking at a mountain, how do you climb a mountain? One step at a time. So make sure that each of those steps are small little chunks or small little bites, because otherwise you're not going to achieve anything. And as it was said a bit earlier, you're going to have so many things on your plate that you get to nothing because you're just overwhelmed. So make sure you're chunking it up in small bits. Challenging, so a goal needs to be challenging. Goals that aren't in our ability, though, we won't be able to achieve it. So when I say it's got to be challenging, yes, but it's got to be within our abilities, or within our ability to be able to grow our current abilities to achieve it. So leading to putting in things that are totally over challenging, totally unrealistic for somebody to achieve, something that they're definitely never going to get the skill sets to do. It's going to give them more feelings of dissatisfaction and frustration rather than helping them to succeed and be motivated. We're all motivated by achievement. So the anticipation of achievement also helps us as well. So I know I'm going to hit that. So that's going to spur me on and make me much more motivated. If we know that a goal is challenging, and we believe it's within our skill sets, we are more likely to accomplish it. And we're more likely to be motivated to actually accomplish it as well. Complexity. Overly complex goals are not going to be achievable. So you've got to be careful about that, and it is a fine balance. It's got to be within your skills level, like I keep saying. Otherwise, it's going to become very overwhelming, and it's going to negatively impact your morale and your productivity and your motivation. So it's got to be realistic. And even the most motivated of people, so you might have somebody in your team who's extremely motivated. If you make their goals too challenging or too complex, and they don't have the abilities to achieve it, they're going to get demotivated as well. And it is a pitfall that a lot of us tend to fall in, because if you've got somebody who's really motivated, you want to keep them motivated, and sometimes we try too hard to keep that motivation going, and it causes the opposite effect to what we were aiming for. And feedback. So to me, feedback is one of the key and the most important stuff. Within goals or within our daily life. If you're not getting feedback on whether or not you're achieving your goal or you're going in the right direction, and you're not getting that regularly and in enough time ahead of when your goal is due, you can't adjust, you can't relook at it, you can't change your strategy, and you can't achieve that goal then. So if the feedback is delayed, we're not going to be able to evaluate in time. We're not going to be able to change things. We're not going to be able to achieve it. So when we perceive our progress towards a goal as adequate, then we're capable and we are more motivated, and we'll learn those new skills and we'll do what we need to actually achieve it. So I always tell my team, the one thing that they need to constantly remember is, if I don't know what's wrong, how can I fix it? And I have the same attitude towards them as well. If they don't know what's wrong, how can I expect them to fix it? I need to feedback them, and I need their feedback to me to make sure that we are achieving what we need to achieve as a team. So looking at the principles, they're quite straightforward. What are the rules? So basic rules are: write down your goals, brainstorm them, make a whole list of them. You might cross some of them out through the brainstorming process, but that's how brainstorming works. But you've got to just do a brain dump and get down what you think your goals are going to be. And that goes to whether it's in your personal life or in your work life as well. Most of us in our work life know what the goals of the company is. If you're running a department, you know what the goal of your department is. So sit with your team, brainstorm, look at how are we as a team going to hit that goal, and then break that down into individual goals as well. Be optimistic, but be realistic as well. I keep harping on about that. You have to be realistic, especially if you want to keep motivation going within your team. Keep it specific and review your progress very often. Again, small bites, and refine it constantly. Put a plan into action to review regularly. So make sure you're having those one-to-ones regularly with your team or with your managers if you're being managed by somebody else. Because if you don't have those regular one-to-ones, again, how do you know you're not getting that regular feedback? You don't know whether you're achieving. I found in a lot of companies where they're not having regular one-to-ones or reviews with people about their performance, you end up with a massive big problem at the end of the year. So I always advocate at least a quarterly review on people's performance, because if you're at least quarterly reviewing with them and saying, no, you're falling short here and you're not doing this right, you're not attaining that, what are your blockers, how do we change it? By the end of the year, they know already whether they've achieved what they were supposed to, or they didn't, or they failed. And especially if it's related to an increase, they'll know at that point in time whether or not they're going to be getting that increase or not. So it's not a massive big fight or problem by the time you get to the end of the year. It's a well-known fact. Sorry, you haven't achieved your goals. We've spoken about this regularly. We've discussed that. I've removed all your blockers. I've given you all the tools you need to get there. You still haven't achieved it. You know you're not going to be brought up with your promotion or your increase or whatever it is that they are aiming for by the end of the year. Reward for success, but don't punish for failure. Again, this is very careful. It's something you've got to be very careful about. So if somebody's failing on their goals, there's a reason why they're failing. Don't punish them for it. Look at what are the obstacles, what are the reasons, how can you change it? It could be something in the company that's changed that's making that goal unrealistic and can never be achieved. Change the goal, amend it, make it more realistic. It could be a blocker that's in their way, that if they get a certain tool, it will help them move forward and take those blockers out of the way. Do something about that. Address the blocker, help them to move forward. But do reward for success. So if they're hitting their goals, let them know they're doing a fantastic job, because that helps with motivation and moves them forward. So constantly evaluate. Tell others. So I've spoken about this a couple of times as well. If I want to lose weight and I don't tell somebody else, I'm more likely to chuck it under the carpet because, yeah, who cares? Nobody really knows about it. But if I tell others about it, then they're going to evaluate me the whole time and say, have you achieved it yet? Have you done this yet? So it motivates me more to make sure I'm achieving my goals. Strengthens that commitment. Again, believe in your abilities. That's really key. You have to believe in your abilities if you want to achieve anything. And going back to this growth mindset and closed mindset. If you have a closed mindset, you're less likely to achieve your goals. Try and keep an open mindset and believe in your abilities. You're in the role that you are for a reason. You've been employed because of your skill set, not despite your skill set. So believe the fact that you actually have the correct skills to do the job that you are employed to do. So putting that into a little bit of a diagram, and I'm pretty sure those of you in management have come across again the Pdca cycle, so the continuous improvement cycle. It's a management method used mostly by businesses for controlling continuous improvements in processes and products, but this is similar to that. So instead of Pdca, which is the management one, we do this, the brainstorm, refine, review, evaluate. And if you're constantly doing that with your goals, you're more likely to be successful and achieve the goals that you've put in place. It's all about setting yourself up for success, which is really a key thing. And you can set your team members up for success, you can set yourself up for success, you can set your children up for success if you constantly on about this and make sure that you're going through that sort of a cycle the whole time. When it's done correctly, goal setting can be really critical to your success. They give you a direction by focusing your attention on relevant behavior, relevant things that you need to do, and they take away all that, as I say, the wood from the trees, all the noise that you don't really want focus on. And if they're specific and challenging, it leads to higher levels of performance. One thing we do need to be careful about, though, is that there's a lot of advantages to goal setting, so it does help you achieve it, is the key to success. And the process has potential drawbacks, though. So we need to be careful about that. And I have been talking about this throughout the presentation as well. If it's utilized incorrectly, it's a potential to cause rather than solve problems. So for example, if a goal is used with a threat of a negative consequence, it increases the stress and anxiety. So if you say to somebody, if you don't do this, you're out on your butt, you lose your job, their stress and the anxiety is going to be increased. And then that's going to affect their performance negatively. Additionally, when there's a conflict between two or more goals, and we spoke about this a bit earlier, Kaisha, performance with respect to each of these is going to waver or be undermined. So it's very critical that you make sure that you are prioritizing your goals correctly as well. So if you've got a conflict, which one is the most important? Why is it the most important? Is it going to help or detract from other stuff that's just as important, and prioritize accordingly? I know those of you that are used to an agile environment, Agile uses something called Moscow. So is this a must? Is it a should have? Is it a would have? And you can prioritize according to that. Otherwise, just look at the relevance of the goals. Look at the impact of the goals. If you don't achieve it, what is it going to have a knock-on effect for? Is it going to affect you as a person? Is it going to affect other people? Look at the priorities, look at the impact, and decide there on that one.
We've had a question. Hey, sorry to put in. I'm just conscious of time too, because I know people have got other meetings to get to at 2 o'clock, but we'll try and get through as much as we can. Got a question from Sarah on any tips on setting goals. And sorry, I can't even say this word in a BUCA world. Sorry if I sound dumb saying that. And how to maintain energy. Do you want to, Sarah, expand on that, because I've clearly just botched up your question?
Not at all. You did a really good job. Yes, so I think COVID last year taught us one thing where both ourselves as leaders and also then leading the people, we've all set our goals, and then COVID threw everything up in the air, and we've had to be quite agile in adapting ourselves. And I know for myself, even now, my goals have changed, I think, 4 times since the beginning of the year, and we're only in June. How do we maintain our energy and maintain the people that we're leading, their energy, and help them to adapt themselves when potentially their goals are continually changing?
I don't have the perfect answer for this, but in those sort of situations, and what I have done with my team, also moving into the COVID world and working remotely, is making sure that I follow the rules and make sure that they are small bite-sized chunks, because if they're focusing on the small bites and something changes, they don't get so demotivated. They've achieved something already along the way, and it's just a slight change to what they were aiming for. And then very key is mentoring them through it. So a lot of the times we change goals without giving people the context why goals are being changed, and what the reasoning for it, and what the motivation should be in achieving these new goals and realigning with what the new goals should be. I don't know if anybody else has other techniques that they use or other feedback on how they would recommend you manage that. Sorry, I can't see the chat, so I don't know if anything's coming through on the chat.
Sorry, there's no other questions through on the chat. Teresa saying she's got to drop off at 2. Really enjoyable event. Looking forward to the next one already. And just a couple of ladies that happen to drop off now at 2. We've got another session, but just saying great session as always.
We have overrun, and I'll try and speed up a little bit more around them. So mostly what we've got to do is we've got to enjoy our goals. So if you're not enjoying the goal, you're never going to achieve them. So you're much more likely to put time and energy into something that excites you. So your goals must reflect the same levels of momentum as well. So basically they say, think of a goal as a dream with a deadline. So if you think about, there's a guy called Alan Watts, which I don't know if people are aware of. He's a British writer and speaker, and he's well known for interpreting the likes of Buddhism and Hinduism for the Western world so that we can sort of understand it. And he has a saying in a lot of his books that says, the real secret to life is to be completely engaged with what you're doing in the here and now, not too much into the future, but what you're doing quite now. And instead of calling it work, realize it's play. So that's very key, is people, and they say that very often, people who are doing what they love doing are more likely to achieve and more likely to stay motivated and really enjoy what they're doing. So we really need to make sure that our goals reflect that as well, so that we're actually enjoying it. Life's more about curiosity and experimenting. It's not necessarily about reaching the right answers. And if you focus solely on the destination, you'll find it very difficult in this work-life cycle without really enjoying it, because you're barely noticing your achievements before you move on to the next one. And you need to stop and, as they say, smell the roses, because having that sense of achievement is what spurs us on and what gives us that happiness. So if we're not actually basking in that achievement once we've achieved it, it's a bit useless. We do need to pat ourselves on the back and say, well done, pick ourselves up and really get ourselves motivated for the next one and say, well, I've achieved this, so let's move forward and see what else I can achieve, because that helps you, spurs you, and gives you that motivation to be able to succeed in life as well. They also say that if you really want to achieve your goal, you need to have more than just the idea. You need to have a reason why you want to achieve the goal, and this comes back to the relevance. So I might say, I want to run a marathon, but is that going to help me? Is that going to give me any sense of personal achievements if I've never ever done exercise or anything like that? What are my reasons? What's my motivator? Why am I trying to do that? Being an Olympic athlete is cool, but am I ready to get up at 5 o'clock every morning with that grueling workouts and be careful about what I eat, have a strict meal plan, not be able to eat what I enjoy eating? Well, most probably not, because I'm not that type of person. So therefore, that's not a goal that I want to put in place for myself. So when you're looking at goals, make sure it's what is relevant to you as an individual as well. And that can even be in your work life, because the company might have a goal and you might have goals to reach that company goal, but within those goals that you have, you need to make sure that they're relevant. Are they relevant to my career? Are they relevant to me as a person? Are they relevant for the company to achieve what the company needs? What's it going to do for me? So those are questions you need to ask when setting your goals as well, to make sure that your goals are relevant. So if you're going to be putting a goal in place to say, I have to do a reporting system by the end of the week, well, is that really relevant? Do we have to have a reporting system? Who's going to look at it? Who's going to utilize it? Is it going to help me building my job? Is it going to help me building my career? Those sort of things need to be asked when setting goals, because they must be relevant. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to achieve them. So you need to make sure, you need to make sure that you're dedicating yourself to your goals and the journey as well as a result to make you be happy and make you motivated. Motivating yourself or writing about what you're excited helps a lot, and telling people about your goal also helps a lot. Like I say, make sure that you're putting that validation and putting that onus on yourself to actually achieve it by telling others. Create reminders for yourself around your home, office, work, whatever. Put it on your screensaver if you have to. Anything that helps you to stay excited and motivated about your goals is really helpful. And it keeps it in your mind as well. So everything that you're doing, your goals are in your mind, and also help you to achieve it a lot easier. So it's not about success, really. Scientific research shows that success isn't just the key to happiness. It's actually the other way around. If you're happy, it often leads to success. So again, coming back to where I was saying that if people are doing what they really love, they're definitely going to be succeeding. So change your approach to achievement. Rather than making a beeline for the peak, you should try to make the most of your experience along the way and enjoy the climb. Stop to smell the roses. Make sure that on your way to the top, make sure that you steer around the obstacles with patience and learn from the hurdles that you're getting. So you should be learning for every single obstacle that you come across, because it makes you grow as a person, it improves your performance, and it motivates you even more as well. Take cognizance of all of those little achievements that you make along the way, because throughout life you have a lot of difficulties that you come across, and sometimes life gets tough, and if you've got all these achievements under your belt and all these nice things that have happened, you can just bring them out and say, yes, it's tough now, but I did achieve that, and I did achieve that, and that was a good thing. So if I could do that, I can stand up, dust myself down, and motor on forward without too much hassle. So it does help a lot in that. But remember that enjoying your journey doesn't mean you should stop setting goals, or that you should change your work ethic for a more leisurely work ethic. Just don't let a single goal dictate your life. Basically, enjoy the pursuit of your goals with a little bit of diversion along the way. You need ambition to keep you on track, so be ambitious as well. So talking about that, what are the different motivational factors that you've come across? If you want to put that in the chat, that'll be quite nice as well, because it might be something that we want to share with the rest of the team as well. I've covered a couple here, putting post-it notes, making sure that it's visible, that you're telling people about it. There is lots of other things that people use to motivate them with the goal, so feel free to share with the rest of the group as well. Setting progressive goals allows small wins and it helps you to move on to larger achievements. Very key if you think about that. So I've talked about breaking big goals down into manageable bite-sized chunks, because if you've got something that just looks unachievable, you're never going to achieve it. And these small goals lead to progress, which is the only thing you really need as a person to feel satisfied. So coming back to what I said earlier in a nutshell, goal setting shows progress, progress equals happiness. Very quickly, I just put the slide in here because I've talked a lot about Locke and Latham's goal setting theory. I'm not going to talk it through. I'm sure these slides are going to be shared with everybody within the group, so you can take your time and go through it. I'm by no expert on this, so it'll be better for me to just skip through it and let you decipher this yourself. There is a lot of writing on the internet around this goal setting theory by Locke and Latham, and it's really, really good reading if you're interested. Quickly moving on to frameworks, because I know my time is over. Most people are familiar with the SMART framework. So is it specific, is it measurable, achievable, relevant, and time specific? In a nutshell, specific, be thoughtful and specific about what you want to focus on. So if you're thinking about that, look at the what, why, where, and when about a goal. So what do I want to achieve? How will I get there? When should I achieve this goal by? I said that in the very beginning as well. You need to be very specific about your goals. You need to have markers as to how you're achieving your goal, and you've got to be quite specific about that. And you've got to have a target, because otherwise you don't know how you're going to get there. So if you're looking at something like, I want to get fitter so I can take part in a half marathon, make it more specific. Look at saying, I would like to try and get fit enough so I can try to run a half marathon by September, and I've got this amount of time to do it. How am I going to get there? I'm going to say, break it down into small chunks and say, well, I need to be able to run so many kilometers by 1 month, so many kilometers by 2 months, and then I'll be ready for a half marathon by 3 months. Something like that. Be very specific about it and break it down as much as possible as well. Pick a goal that's measurable so you can continue to monitor your progress. So again, something I've covered, you have to be able to monitor progress. If you can't monitor your progress, you're going to lose your motivation. You're not going to see those little wins. So make sure that it's measurable as much as possible. Set yourself up for success by choosing something that's achievable. So don't sit there and say, next week I'm going to be running a half marathon. Well, if you've never exercised before and you're not a fitness freak and you don't run 10 kilometers every single day, well, that's definitely not achievable if you want to do it by next week, because a half marathon is quite a grueling exercise. Make it realistic when choosing goals. Think about how it's going to affect your day-to-day life. So if by running a half marathon, and I know I keep carrying on about that, but I'm just trying to get the stream through here. If by doing that, I have to give up an hour every day to go running, and that's going to impact on my day-to-day life or my family life or other activities I have planned or even my work life, is it really realistic for me to put that goal in place? Because I'm going to fail at it because I'm not going to have the time to do it. So make sure that you're being realistic about how it's going to affect your life, because otherwise you're setting yourself up for failure straight away. And then make sure it's got a time frame. It doesn't have to say, I want to lose weight or I want to run a half marathon. Well, yeah, sure, all of us would like to, but when? If you're not going to put the when in there, when you want to achieve this by, you're not going to achieve it, and you're going to end up slipping and just brushing it under the carpet and not achieving your goal because it's not that important. Moving on to other frameworks that people might be familiar with. So there is other ones out there. I know most people talk about SMART, but you've got the MBO, which is management by objectives. So again, this is more about pushing the objective settings onto your team members and letting them come up with their own objectives to fit in with what it is that the company is trying to achieve. By doing that, they take more responsibility, or it's envisioned that they would take more responsibility and therefore more ownership as well. But they do need to be coached through this, and it's something that you've got to help them with, because otherwise they're going to be putting in objectives which are not realistic or actually moving a company where they need to be. The other one is the GROW. So this comes from goal, reality, options, and will. it's often something used within management or coaching arenas more than anything. And it sort of helps people to identify the gap between what the current reality is and what it is that you need to achieve. So what do you need to do to get to your end goal based on where you are right now? And then the other two I put in here is the OKRs and KPIs. So like I said in the very beginning, there's a lot of confusion out there about people saying, oh, I don't want goals, I want OKRs. Oh, no, I've got to have KPIs and that. But actually, they're all frameworks. OKRs, KPIs are all goal-setting frameworks. And I think if everybody understands the idea about a framework, you could never follow a framework properly, whether it's Agile, whether it's Prince 2, whether it's goal-setting things, MBA, or that. You always take elements out of a framework that's going to work in the environment that you are in at the moment. And if you look at the definition of what an OKR and a KPI is, OKRs are objectives by key results. So here is about lining yourself with your company goals, which I've mentioned a few times as well. And your KPIs about your key performance indicators. Personally, I like to use a mixture of SMART, OKR, and KPI because I find that that works quite well when setting people. So when I say mixture, I use the SMART to set a goal. So make sure it's a SMART goal so that people can measure it, people can see it's realistic, people can see it's time-driven. I then use OKRs to show how those individual goals link into the company goals so that the people can see how they helping the company to achieve the goals. So if you look, say, for example, a lot of companies will say, oh, we've got to have 1 million revenue by the end of the year. If you're looking from a tech perspective, a junior program is going to sit there and say, well, I'm not in sales, so how am I going to bring in that revenue? Linking them up to the company goals that way can help them. So you could set them a goal and saying, if you deliver your systems that we have put into the pipeline for you over the next 3 months, that's going to then support the sales to be able to go out and sell those products and thereby bring in the revenue. Putting it like that to them makes them realize and say, oh, okay, so I have an input into that goal, so I'm helping the company achieve the goal by doing this. It's a motivating factor and it helps them to achieve it a lot better. And then key performance indicators is a way of breaking it down into bite-sized chunks. So basically saying, okay, you need to deliver based on the pipeline. What does that look like? Well, in the pipeline, you've got to deliver A, B, C. So we'll break them down into KPIs. So you've got to deliver A by X date, B by this date, C by this date, all within your overall goal. And that breaks it down and makes it a lot more achievable for the person. And then they can focus one goal at a time. But that's my personal way. Everybody has their own way of doing it. And every environment that you're working in has different ways of looking at these sort of things, and it depends on the maturity and what the company is employing at that point in time as well. So in summary, we all have the capacity to adapt and to achieve our personal and work expectations. And through goal setting, we raise the bar in relation to our own potential, and we push ourselves to achieve things that in reality we would only have dreamt was possible, as well as things that we really want to achieve. Thank you all very much for your time. My name is Hazel, and if you'd like to link in with me, this is my LinkedIn address. I know I have gone over quite a bit, so sorry about that, Kaisha, and I hope we haven't lost too many people along the way.
No, it's okay. Thank you so much. That was brilliant. I learned a lot, and there's still people here. There's still ladies here. I think some just had to drop off for 2 p.m. meetings, but that was really, really useful, and hopefully everyone will connect with you after as well. And we have got the recording available, so people we'll be able to go onto YouTube and watch the recording too. So Renata, Rachel, Lou's put thank you, it's been great. A lot of other ladies have put thank you. Marion, great session, really helpful. So thank you. I really do think the whole growth mindset and goal setting is hugely, hugely important. Both go hand in hand, and mindset is everything essentially to get you to where you want to get to. And I know, Hazel, with your career, you've managed to do so much already and get to that CTO role. So I really appreciate your views and feedback on what's worked for you as well. So thank you so much. And everyone else, please help me by thanking Hazel, but also thanking Kat for her presentation earlier. Also, it's been a great afternoon, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. I have put it in the chat also. We've got our next event coming up in September. So we're having a couple of months off over summer, but then we'll be back in September. And the topic is really interesting, and hopefully one a lot of ladies will find interesting and learn from. It's around negotiating, so how to be effective negotiator, which I think a lot of us have maybe struggled with and hopefully are getting better at, but how to negotiate, but also how to nail the perfect pitch and presentation. So negotiating skills and presentation. That's going to be on Thursday, the 23rd of September, 8:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. Holly, who's in the chat too, will send you the link as soon as it's live, probably in the next week or so, I think. I'm talking her behalf, but over the next week or so, hopefully we'll get the link out to you to start signing up. So thank you, ladies. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Hazel. Have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week also, and see you at the next one in September. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Keisha.
bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.